There was no shouting, no breaking glass, just the sound of teeth on steak and the distant drone of a lawn mower 2 houses over. Ordinary, antiseptic quiet, the kind that lives in the skin of suburbs like ours, just outside Atlanta, where every lawn is trimmed, every curtain drawn the same way, and every family pretends better than they live. Trevor asked if the ranch dressing was the right one, like I hadn't bought it for the last 6 years. Jaden scrolled through his phone under the table. Kelly said nothing. Her eyes skimmed each of us like she was taking attendance, not joining a meal. We were a family in posture only. I'd grilled the chicken myself, cleaned the porch, scraped the grill grates, even bought that overpriced marinade Jaden liked, the one he had once mentioned offhand a year ago that his real dad used when they still did things like camp or cook or speak. None of it meant a thing. I was the hands, the wallet, the man with no roots in their eyes. Then Kelly said it. Simple. Clean. No warning. They're not your sons. You don't get a say. She was looking at her plate, like she couldn't be bothered to direct it at me, like that would have made it too real. Trevor didn't blink. He kicked back against the leg of my chair, shoving it a few inches with the casual power of a boy who'd never been told no by a man he feared. Jaden smirked, not looking up. You're nobody here, he muttered. And everyone, smiled like it was true. I didn't speak, didn't demand she explain herself. I wasn't going to give them the performance they wanted. I didn't raise my voice or try to remind them what I'd done. What would have been the point? They'd already deleted me from the family photo. And Kelly, my wife, had handed them the eraser. So I stood up, quiet, no theatrics. I gathered my plate, scraped it into the sink, rinsed it clean, and set it on the drying rack. Then I left. Walked down the hallway with the drywall I'd patched last spring after Jaden's tantrum put a hole in it. Stepped past the rug Kelly picked out and never paid for. Sat down in the garage, the only room in the house that felt like mine. The floor was cold. My back hurt from where Trevor's Jeep had needed a full day's labor in July heat. Unpaid. I'd bought those brake pads. I'd cleaned the oil from his driveway. I'd handled his speeding ticket too, called the lawyer myself. I looked at the blackness of the garage, felt it wrap around me like something honest. Pulled out my phone, typed a message. I'm done fixing this family. Hit send. No second draft. No hesitation. That was it. That was the moment. The one I'd been crawling toward for years without knowing it. The exact second the gears stopped turning. And the house didn't notice. No one followed me. No one knocked. No one asked if I was okay. Because they didn't need me, not in the way people mean need. They needed my money, my car, my hours, my silence. Not me. I used to believe families were built, that love could be earned, that if you showed up, day after day, if you covered the bills, taught them how to tie ties, bought the birthday gifts their father forgot, they'd eventually look at you like you belonged. I believed that. God help me, I believed it. The first time I met Kelly, she told me her ex was barely around. She said it like a confession, like a warning. Todd was in Colorado, I think, some job, some new woman. He sent the boys' birthday gifts in the mail, sometimes with cards that read like corporate emails. Hope you're well. Love, Dad. She told me, they need stability. That's what they've never had. And I thought, I can do that. I can be that. So I became their shadow. I worked overtime to keep their life smooth. Never asked them to call me Dad. Never even pushed for thank you. I just did the job. Quietly. Repaired what broke. Paid what cost. Absorbed what hurt. Jaden once totaled a bike I got him for Christmas. He never said sorry. Just left the pieces in the yard like trash. I replaced it within a week. Trevor failed a class his sophomore year. Kelly panicked. I hired a private tutor, paid cash, no complaints. He passed. Never thanked me. When their father visited, rare but theatrical, he took them out for dinner. One night in Atlanta, some overpriced steakhouse, and they came back glowing. Like he was gold and I was rust. He gets us, Jaden said. You just pay for stuff. I swallowed it, like I always did, because Kelly would take my side, right? Except she didn't. Not when they mocked me for my job. Not when they rolled their eyes every time I spoke. Not when they laughed at the way I cleaned the gutters or mowed the lawn or wore the wrong brand of sneakers. Teenagers, she'd say. They're just kids. But kids grow up. And if they grow up learning that a man can break his back for them and still be disrespected, what exactly are you raising? The thing is, I didn't need their love. I never asked for it. All I ever wanted was to be seen, to be counted. They saw the lights come on, the fridge always full, the shoes that got replaced the moment they grew out of them. But they never saw me. Not really. And now, after that dinner, that moment, they made it official. You're nobody here. Not our dad. No say. No name. So I sat in that garage, surrounded by tools they never borrowed and things they never noticed, and I started making a list. Not of what I'd done, of what I'd stopped doing. Because when a machine breaks, you don't scream at it. You pull the plug. You stop feeding it power. And I'd been a machine in this house long enough. They'd never felt the silence of me until that moment. But they would. They would. The next morning, I didn't pay the rent. 6 years straight, never missed a payment. Even when I was laid off in 2020, I picked up shifts at the hardware store and sold half my tools before the mortgage ever felt the delay. But this time, I sat at my desk, opened the bank app, stared at the Pay Now button, then closed the tab. One small click. That's all it would have taken. Instead, I did nothing. I stood by the window for a long time, watching sunlight creep over the grass I usually mowed every Saturday. The hedges needed trimming. The porch lights flickered again. Jaden had left a Red Bull can on the front steps. None of it bothered me, not in the usual way. I wasn't angry. I was done. That weekend, I didn't go to the farmer's market. Didn't buy the almond milk Jaden pretended was for health. Didn't refill the fridge with Kelly's favorite berries or Trevor's deli meats. I didn't check the propane tank for the grill. The shopping list sat untouched on the counter. No notes. No reminders. No text alerts from me to Kelly, telling her where I was or what time I'd be back. I simply removed myself, quietly, like a man slipping beneath the surface of a still lake and deciding not to come up. They didn't notice, not at first. Trevor stormed into the kitchen on Monday, pulling open the fridge like it owed him something. "Where's the turkey?" he snapped. "Did you forget to shop?" I sipped my coffee and said nothing. He slammed the door hard enough to rattle the magnets. Jaden wandered in a minute later, phone in hand. "Wi-Fi's down again," he muttered. Seriously. He didn't even look at me, just mumbled his grievance into the air, like complaining was a prayer and I was the god that failed him. I finished my coffee. That was the start. By Wednesday, the unraveling had **n, one thread at a time. The fridge was near empty. The Wi-Fi still down. No payment made. No call placed. Just silence. The garbage hadn't been taken out. The laundry machine blinked with a full load Kelly had forgotten to dry. Jaden's phone charger shorted out and nobody replaced it. I'd fixed that charger 3 times. This time, I watched him curse and leave the house with 12% battery. Trevor got pulled over Thursday night. Expired tags. I had renewed them last year. This year, I didn't. He came home fuming, keys clattering on the counter. Seriously? The insurance didn't go through either. What the hell? Kelly looked at me like I'd missed a deadline, like I was the assistant in a life she ran. I didn't speak. They started scrambling. Jaden texted me from the other room. "Hey, my card isn't working. Did you forget to reload it?" I left it on read. Kelly pulled me aside that night. We stood in the kitchen, the dishwasher humming behind us like some slow, dumb beast. She looked tired. Her robe was slipping off one shoulder. "Did the utilities get paid?" she asked. I sipped my water. "I think the water bill came today," she added. "Final notice?" I nodded. Her brows furrowed. "Michael, is everything okay?" I looked at her the way a man might look at an appliance that used to work. Not with hatred, just detachment. "You said I wasn't part of the family," I reminded her. "So now I'm just living here." The words landed like cold soup. She didn't know what to do with them. Her mouth opened, closed. She turned away. The next day, I canceled Trevor's insurance renewal. I knew what the consequences were. That's what made it easy. When you're nobody, there's nothing left to protect. The ripple effects were slow but certain. Jaden's college account bounced. I had kept that thing alive through overdrafts and side gigs. I once sold an old watch my father left me so he could afford a new laptop. I told myself it was love, that it meant something. Now it meant nothing. He came downstairs holding an envelope, cheeks red, voice tight. Why'd the loan office send this? They said it was declined. The monthly transfer stopped. I looked him in the eye. I stopped it. His mouth opened. Why? You told me I wasn't your father. He blinked. What does that have to do with? You said I had no say, that I was nobody, so I stopped acting like I mattered. He looked to Kelly, who was standing frozen in the doorway, but she didn't move, didn't speak. She knew. They all knew. That's the thing about quiet decisions. They don't cause earthquakes. They cause rot. Silent and slow like mold in the walls. You don't see it until you're breathing it in. By the second week, Kelly was doing the grocery shopping alone. She forgot half the list. Jaden shouted when there were no more eggs. Trevor snapped when the cable stopped working. I used to call twice a year to haggle the bill down. This time, I didn't even bother. I sat on the porch and drank my coffee. Alone. Let the weeds grow in the cracks of the driveway I used to pressure wash. Let the silence say what words never could. Kelly called a family meeting that Sunday. I didn't show up. They sat around the table waiting. She texted me, "Can you come join us?" I replied, "I'm not part of the family, remember?" She didn't answer. I heard them talking in circles for 20 minutes. Blame bouncing between them like a loose ceiling fan. Then silence again. Jaden finally tried to bridge the gap. "Look, I didn't mean it like that," he said one morning. "I was just pissed. You know how it is." I looked at him, slow and deliberate. "You said what you believed. That matters more than what you say when you're scared." He frowned. "Scared? You're starting to realize what I held up." He looked away. "So this is revenge?" "No," I said. "This is release." Kelly came to me later, coffee in hand, trying to talk in her softest tone. "We're just trying to find balance again." I shook my head. There was never balance. There was me doing everything and the rest of you forgetting I was there. Her face fell. "That's not fair." "No," I said. "What's not fair is watching a man bleed for a family and being told he doesn't count." She whispered, "I didn't mean it." But meaning didn't matter anymore. Silence had its own meaning. I moved slower after that. Didn't rush to fix things. Didn't pick up their slack. The boys started missing school deadlines. The house got dustier. The laundry piled higher. Things fell apart. Not in some dramatic explosion, but like an engine without oil. By week 3, Trevor came to me, voice strained. "Do you think you could help me with the Jeep? It won't start." I looked at him for a long moment. "Ask your father. He doesn't know cars." "I didn't know this house when I moved in," I said. "I learned. Because I had to." He didn't answer. Just left. Jaden started staying out late. Kelly asked if I'd speak to him. I shook my head. "That's a parent's job," I said. Her eyes filled. "You are a parent." I met her gaze. "Not anymore. You decided that at dinner." That word dinner hung like a blade. No one brought it up again. But we all felt it. The turning. The undoing. You don't notice the value of a man until his labor leaves the room. Until the lights don't get changed. Until the garbage doesn't move. Until the money dries up and the ground beneath your privilege starts to crack. I had been the scaffolding. Now they could feel the collapse. The question wasn't whether the family would fall. It was how long they'd pretend it wasn't already happening. The house had grown quieter. But not in the way peace settles in. It was the kind of quiet you hear before something collapses. The air hung heavy, like it remembered what had been said that night around the dinner table and wasn't ready to forgive anyone for it. I started sleeping with the door closed. It wasn't out of anger, just clarity. That was the thing no one seemed to understand. This wasn't punishment. It wasn't me sulking like a scolded child. It was resignation. I had finally taken their word for it. They said I wasn't family. So I stopped performing like I was. Kelly knocked one morning. Soft, almost timid. She hadn't knocked in years. She used to walk in like everything in this house was hers. But that morning she stood behind the door like a guest. "You have a second?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my hands. They looked older than I remembered. I used to joke about my dad's hands. Scarred from tools, stiff in the winter, always smelling faintly of motor oil or cedar. I'd worn those hands like a badge. Now they just looked tired. She knocked again. "Michael!" I opened the door. She held 2 mugs. Coffee. Hers had oat milk, mine was black. She still remembered. Small details. But memory isn't the same as love. "We should talk," she said. I didn't invite her in. I followed her back to the kitchen. We sat at opposite ends of the table. The same one I'd stained and sealed myself. Jaden had carved his initials into the edge once. I sanded it down. Thought it was just kids being kids. Now it looked like a warning. Kelly cleared her throat. "I think we need to clarify responsibilities." I nodded. "Sure. Let's start with what's actually yours." She blinked. "Didn't expect that." "I've been covering everything," I said, keeping my tone flat. "The mortgage, the food, the insurance, the repairs. You know that." She nodded slowly. "I didn't mind," I continued, "because I thought we were a team. I thought this family mattered." She looked down at her coffee. "But then you said I wasn't part of it. That Trevor and Jaden weren't mine. And you said it like you'd been holding it in. Like it was a relief to finally say it." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I didn't mean." "But you did," I cut in. "You meant it, or you wouldn't have said it. And even if you didn't mean it, they heard it. They felt you give them permission to treat me like I didn't count. And now that I've stepped back, you want to negotiate roles? Now?" She was quiet for a long time. "I was angry," she finally said. "I felt like you were being too hard on them." "I was holding them accountable," I said. "Something their father never did. Something you rarely do." She stiffened. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" I asked. "Where was he when Trevor got caught shoplifting? Who paid for the lawyer? Who drove to the station at 2 a.m.? She didn't respond. "Who handled Jaden's breakdown last fall? You remember? When he stopped going to classes, locked himself in his room. Who called the therapist? Who covered the bills?" Still nothing. I leaned forward. I stepped in every time. I never asked for credit. I didn't need Dad printed on a mug. But I thought I earned a voice. A seat at the table. Respect. Tears welled in her eyes. "You did." "No," I said. "I didn't. Because the moment it was convenient, you reminded me I wasn't blood. You chose your son's comfort over my dignity. And now I'm supposed to keep performing like nothing changed?" She wiped her eyes. "What do you want me to say?" "Nothing," I said. "There's nothing to say, because you've already said it." That was the last real conversation we had. After that, she tried, in small ways, refilled the coffee, made my favorite casserole one night, turned on the porch light when I worked late. But love isn't gestures. It's who you defend when the knives come out. And when Trevor shoved my chair, when Jaden called me nobody, when I looked to her and saw only silence, that was her answer. A week later, the consequences started piling up. Jaden lost his scholarship. I knew it was coming. His grades had slipped. He'd stopped turning in assignments. But I had been the one keeping his academic advisor on the hook. I'd made the calls, arranged the meetings. I was the one who got him extensions and letters of recommendation. When I stepped back, no one picked up the slack. He found out on a Wednesday, stormed into the living room holding the letter like it was on fire. "This is your fault," he shouted. I looked up from my book. "How? You stopped helping. You let this happen." I set the book down. "You said I had no say, remember? So I assumed you didn't want my help." He opened his mouth, then closed it. "I didn't sabotage anything," I said. "I just stopped saving you." Trevor's lease got denied the next day. Poor credit. Lack of cosigner. The Jeep I bought him was technically still in my name. And I'd canceled the insurance when he called me a ghost in my own home. He cornered me in the driveway. "Why didn't you co-sign?" "Because I'm not your dad," I said. He flushed red. "You're just gonna let me be homeless?" "You chose this," I replied. "You and your brother. You made it clear who your father is. So go to him. He's in Arizona. Then buy a bus ticket." He glared at me like I'd punched him. "I gave you everything," I said. "Not because I had to. Because I believed I was part of this family. And you spat on that. Now you're learning what absence feels like." Kelly tried again. Invited me for coffee. "Can we please just talk?" she said, voice trembling. I sat at the table. She tried to smile. Like maybe if she softened enough, I'd forget the damage. "I miss us," she said. "There is no us," I replied. "There was a contract. I honored it. You tore it up." She looked hurt. "That's not fair." "You gave them permission," I said. "You let them believe I was optional. That I was an ATM with a tool belt." "I didn't mean." "You raised them," I said. "And they reflect you." She didn't speak again. The next day, Jaden packed a bag and left. Said he was staying with friends. I didn't ask where. Trevor slept on the couch for 3 nights. His name blacklisted on every rental list in town. Kelly walked through the house like a ghost. Sometimes she'd stop by the laundry room and just stand there, like the washing machine could answer her questions. But nothing spoke. Not me. Not anymore. Love without respect is just slavery. It's invisible labor dressed up as loyalty. And I had been loyal far too long. When I stepped back, the silence didn't K*L the family. It revealed it. They had built their lives around a man they refused to see. And when that man went still, everything crumbled. I watched it happen. Not with glee. Not with malice. Just with the clarity of a man who finally understood his worth. And what it cost to be invisible. They called it cruelty. But I called it freedom. And in that widening silence, I finally heard something true. Myself. A month later, the house was quieter. Not empty, just honest. Jaden was gone first. Said he was staying with a friend from campus, but I knew better. His friend had dropped out 2 semesters ago. Lived in a shared apartment with a busted screen door and no working heat. I saw it once. No one cooked there. Dishes piled up like excuses. The kind of place you go when pride's too thick to ask for help. He didn't say goodbye. Just slammed the door on a Tuesday afternoon with a half-zipped duffel bag and that same smirk he used to wear when he thought he'd won. Trevor lasted longer. But not by much. His name had burned through the rental lists in town like a grease fire. No references. No savings. No one to vouch for him. The Jeep he drove sputtered every morning. A wheezing animal on its last leg. The check engine light wasn't just on, it was screaming. He asked Kelly for help. I heard the whisper through the wall. "I don't have that kind of money," she said. "You think I do?" he snapped. She didn't answer. 3 days later, I found a note on the kitchen counter. 2 lines. No apology. Just, "I'll figure it out. Don't wait up." That was it. The family I had funded, cooked for, fixed things for, gone. Scattered like ash in wind. Kelly stayed. But she didn't live. She moved through the house like someone trying to avoid waking a sleeping animal. Eyes low. Shoulders curled in. No music played anymore. The TV stayed off. She washed her coffee mug the moment she used it. Like she couldn't let anything sit too long or it might remind her of something she wasn't ready to face. I didn't gloat. I didn't say, "I told you so." I didn't need to. She said it all without speaking. The rooms spoke louder. The pantry she used to overstock, just in case, was half empty. The bathroom shelves bare. No more $12 shampoo bottles or exotic candles from that store she liked downtown. I noticed. Of course I noticed. I had paid for them. She asked once if I was happy. We were in the backyard. She was weeding. Something she never did before. Her nails were chipped. Dirt smudged across her forehead. "You seem lighter," she said. Not bitter. Just curious. I looked at the tree I planted 5 years ago. The one they always forgot to water. It had grown despite everything. "I'm not lighter," I said. "I'm just not carrying you anymore." She nodded, wiped sweat from her brow. Didn't argue. That was what surprised me most. The absence of defense. I think she finally understood. You can't keep withdrawing from a man who never deposits for himself. You can't tell him he's invisible and still expect him to show up with groceries and clean towels. You can't spend years calling him not real and still want his very real money. So I stopped being real. I left the lights unfixed. I left the sink leaking. I let the weeds grow in the cracks of the patio I once power washed every spring. And when she asked for help, I didn't say no. I just didn't answer. There's a difference. It's easy to mistake silence for punishment. But sometimes, it's just a man turning the volume down on a life that never heard him. By the end of the second month, she packed a suitcase. Didn't tell me where she was going. Just left a note on the fridge. "Staying with my sister for a while. Don't worry, I'll cover my half." Her half. As if she'd ever carried one. The fridge light flickered when I opened it. 2 eggs. Some expired milk. 1 bruised apple. I stood there for a long time, staring into that pale hum of silence. Then I laughed. Just once. Soft. The kind of laugh you give a bad play at the end of a long night. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger is what you feel when you still think you can change something. I had moved past that. The house, for the first time in years, felt still. Not like a bomb waiting. Not like a tightrope walk. Just still. I started doing things for myself. Small things. Cooked dinner the way I liked it. Turned the thermostat to my comfort instead of theirs. Listened to jazz without someone telling me it was boring old man music. I lit a fire in the backyard and didn't invite anyone to sit near it. No one complained. No one asked me to change the song or lower the heat or buy a different brand of soap. There was no applause. No grand awakening. Just absence. Absence of need. Absence of disrespect. Absence of noise. I had served long enough. I had poured from a cup they never thought to refill. And now that I'd put the cup down, they'd finally noticed it was empty. Trevor texted me once. A single line. "Could we talk?" I didn't reply. Jaden emailed, asking if I'd reconsider the college funding. He said he understood things were said in the heat of the moment. I almost replied, drafted it out. "And now you're feeling the heat." But I deleted it. Some things don't need a reply. Kelly sent a longer message. Said she missed us. Said she made mistakes. Said the boys were struggling and maybe, just maybe, it was time to talk about healing. She ended with, "Don't you think we've all suffered enough?" I read it 3 times. Then I closed the laptop. The truth is, I wasn't punishing them. I wasn't holding their lives hostage. I was letting them live in the house they built. Brick by brick. Word by word. "You're not our dad. You don't get a say. You're nobody here." And the worst part? They believed it. For years. Until the rent went unpaid. Until the fridge went empty. Until the silence echoed louder than any speech I ever gave. Now the echoes are all they have. And me? I'm finally hearing my own voice. It's not bitter. Not cold. Just clear. I wake up early. Make coffee. Sit on the porch. Watch the sky turn from navy to gold. Sometimes the wind shifts and I catch the smell of engine grease, old aftershave, lemon from the cleaner I still keep under the sink. Sense of a life I gave and gave and gave to, and I don't miss it. Because I finally understand something I should have known from the beginning. You can't earn your place in a family that's already decided you're a guest. You can serve them. You can fund them. You can carry their futures on your back. But unless they choose you, really choose you, you will always be disposable the moment you stop producing. I chose them every day. They chose me when it was convenient. So now I choose myself. No revenge. No rage. Just retreat. Clean. Final. Free. They can tell whatever story they want. That I was cruel. That I abandoned them. That I gave up. But I didn't give up. I just stopped volunteering for a war they never acknowledged I fought. And now that the battlefield is empty, I can finally breathe. So let me ask you something, whoever you are. Was I wrong? Was I cruel to pull back, to let them feel the weight I carried? Was it betrayal to stop sacrificing when all I got in return was silence? Or was this the only way left to reclaim the man they refused to see? Tell me, would you have endured it? Or would you have walked away too?